Alright guys, I'm going to show you how I make whole wheat biscuits. This is just my recipe, but it's I think it's a pretty good one. You may hear my cat meowing. I think he's going to supervise this. So I put all the dry ingredients in first and then get them all incorporated. So I'm partial to buttermilk, but we don't keep buttermilk in the house. But I have been using this buttermilk mix right here for years. My mom told me about this. So if you're going to use a cup of milk, that's what this calls for, you would use 2 tablespoons of this mix. You just dissolve it in milk and you can use it in any recipe that calls for buttermilk. But I just put it in dry since we'll be adding the milk later. Next ingredient is baking powder. When all this crazy COVID stuff started, the stores ran out of just about everything for baking. So what we did is we went up to the Amish store and we bought a large amount of baking powder because we make biscuits quite a bit. And this was only $3.45. Really good deal, and this is good baking powder. I get a good rise out of these. Now I'm a little generous with baking powder. I like a good rise to my biscuits, so these aren't going to be level teaspoons. I just lightly mound them. Half a teaspoon. That was kosher salt. I suppose any kind of salt you have would work. Now I mix everything together really well before I put any kind of wet ingredient in here. And be thorough. Alright, so the next ingredient is going to be, calls for 4 tablespoons of some kind of shortening. And the recipe calls for butter, and we've not cooked with butter for a long time. So what I like to use is coconut oil. We get it in these large containers. And if you keep this out of the heat, it will remain solid. So you can scoop it. Alright, so now the next step is to cut in this coconut oil, your shortening, butter, whatever you're going to use, until this mixture resembles coarse crumbs. And one thing I always notice is people don't like to cut this stuff in enough. I'll show you what it should look like. You just keep at it. If you have any little dry pockets of flour, just loose powdery flour, then you're not done. Keep cutting this stuff in. Okay, if you can see that, that is what coarse crumbs are supposed to look like. You have that shortening spread throughout. So now the next ingredient is a cup of cold milk of any kind. You just start working this around until it comes together in almost a sticky dough. And at this point you may spoon in a little bit of extra flour just to get it right to the point where you want it. That is about what you're looking for right there. You can see that. I just turned it out onto some flour, and I put some flour on top. And it's like to kind of get it flattened out a little bit with my hands. I like to use this dowel to roll them out, and my gauge for thickness is, I'm using a medium cutter, but that's my gauge for thickness. It's just about where the little flange is at the top of that. So I don't have much rolling out to do. Alright, so when I cut, I don't twist, I just push straight down and cut it with one motion, like that. And my oven's preheated to 450 degrees, and these are going to bake 12 or 13 minutes. And since they're whole wheat, they don't quote brown up like white flour biscuits will, because they're brown to start with. So it's best to go by the timer, but that's about the size of the biscuit we're going to put on the cookie sheet. Alright guys, that's how they ought to come out looking. Let me get these off into a bowl and we'll split one open. Alright, so we're getting ready to make some eggs and have breakfast for supper. We found a bunch of these online, and they sell these at the Amish store, but they make a huge variety, so we ordered the sugar-free jams. This is Miller and this is strawberry. So we went online and just ordered an entire variety of their sugar-free jams. But there you go. You can have jam on it, honey, and my personal favorite is some sausage. So
turkey sausage.
It's turkey sausage, but it's darn good. Alright guys, enjoy whatever you're having for supper, and we will see you next time. Bye.